Hi, Heather.
Hey Mike, how are you?
Good. I like your outfit.
Thank you. It's October 1st, so I am excited for the holiday season.
Well, October 1st is a dark day in Las Vegas history, but nevertheless,
Yes,
I'm happy that you are in the Halloween spirit already. One of my favorite holidays.
you are
You didn't know that?
absolutely right. I love Halloween, but you're right. This is I didn't think about that when I dressed up, actually. I should have thought about that.
That's okay. Actually, a good trivia question is what is the deadliest day in Las Vegas history?
So if you guys know that, put that in the chat because it's actually the um, anniversary that we are speaking about. Um, So we've been gone forever. What have you been doing? Do you have any pictures? Do you have stories?
Yeah, so the main thing I did since the last live stream was I bicycled 500 miles of the Camino de Santiago in both France and Spain. And I would like to share some pictures of it.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited.
Okay, before we get to that, did anyone have an answer to my trivia question before we forget about that?
Yes, we do have a few answers. Was it the shooting?
No, it was not.
And someone said the shooting for Mandalay Bay.
Nope, that's the same thing.
I was thinking that too. That was the answer I was thinking of.
Nope. I it's kind of a trick question. Most people would think it would be the October 1st shooting from the Mandalay Bay, but no, it was the MGM Grand Fire, I believe in 1980. That had more fatalities.
That makes sense. I don't know if I ever shared this. My dad was the firefighter when that happened.
I
Um,
did not know that.
yeah, he was one of the firefighters that had to go and rescue people, and he had some disturbing stories from that day.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
Okay, well maybe we can talk about that privately later. But let me
Okay.
show you some Camino pictures, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I see you already set that up, Heather. Okay,
Yep.
so what you're looking at now is a map of Europe, and all of these lines are parts of the Camino. The main, can you see my cursor?
Mm, no.
Okay, anyway, if you look at Spain, you can see a red line going across northern Spain. That is the most popular Camino. I think about I don't know, about 75% of people who do the Camino do that route. It's called the French way. Um, and you can see leading into it, there are various blue paths in France that kind of feed into the French way. And there's also a black line way at the northern part of Spain. That's called the Northern Route. And there's another route that goes through Portugal, and another one that goes through kind of the middle of Spain from Seville, and there's two routes that come from Madrid, and but these trails go all the way up through Germany and Italy and all, and even in England. So it's just thousands and thousands of miles um, of there's not just one Camino. People just say the Camino, but it's really many different ways of doing it. So the way I did it, and I'm sorry you can't see my cursor, but if you look at the French part, you can kind of see four. This is hard to explain, but trust me, my mouse is clicking on it. There's a city called Le Puy, um, which is it's if there's kind of four main blue routes in France, and it's the second from the bottom, and Le Puy is like right at the end of the second from the bottom blue route. And there's anyway, so it's a city in France. So I started there. So let's move on. Let's get some actual pictures. But yeah, how do I advance this? Here we go. Do you see me with a bicycle?
Yes.
So
Um, I
yes.
think you had to click on it because now I could see your pointer.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, let me go back real quick and point. Do you see my pointer now?
Yes, I
So it's
do.
pointing on Le Puy, where I started in France. Okay, so let's go on.
Cool.
Whoops. Okay, so probably 97% of people that do the Camino do it on foot, which I probably should have, but I chose to do it on bicycle. And it would have been extremely expensive to ship a bicycle from the United States to Europe. So I just bought one there, and I set up this deal at least in a week in advance with a bilingual friend of mine. So she had them order this bicycle over a week before I showed up there. Um, and here I am picking it up. And so here I am at the cathedral in Le Puy. The Camino is a very um, it's one of the three recognized pilgrimages in Catholicism, and it's by far the most popular. And so there's it goes by all these famous cathedrals and churches in Europe. And the one in Le Puy is an official starting point, and you start right through this door. You go through this door, and that's where that Camino starts. And I know the picture is awful, but I wanted to convey that usually they start in a cathedral. So here's me outside of the cathedral in Le Puy. And this is upside down, but this is called a credential. And as you go, you get stamps from all the places you stay and maybe churches you visit and other significant places. So it's kind of like a passport. And if you stay in what's called an albergue, which is kind of like a hostel for the pilgrims, you have to have one of these. So this is the kind of route that I liked, just a nice paved um, road that didn't have a lot of car traffic. Trust me, it was not always like this. It was only like this maybe 25% of the time. And you saw a lot of these statues of pilgrims kind of pointing the right way. That might be St. James. The reason this whole thing ends in Santiago, Spain, which I forgot to say before, is because Catholics believe that that's where the remains of the apostle James are.
Was
Okay, so
there was
go ahead.
there a lot of other people on the road or on the trail with you?
Yes, a lot. And the closer I got to Santiago, the more there were.
Hmm.
So here I am with my first stamp at the first place I stayed, in Albergue, in a small town in France. And you might say there's two stamps there. It comes automatically with the first one, that red one. And I kind of like this sign for the sheep crossing. And you can see all those bags on my bicycle for all of my stuff. And this shows a turn that I missed. And I quickly learned that being on a bicycle, I couldn't be on the Camino itself most of the time, but I took roads that were close to it. And Apple Maps really had me taking some bizarre routes, including taking what looked like somebody's driveway here.
Jeez.
All right, so France was rainy, and here I am, the second night outside yet another church. A lot of churches on the Camino, and just pouring rain.
What was the temperature like?
It was nice. You can see here I'm wearing three different layers, so that day was kind of cold, but Spain was really nice. France was maybe a little cold, and you saw a lot of statues of the Virgin Mary a lot, including this one, and it was usually white and blue, which is how she appeared in France when she allegedly made an appearance in Lourdes. So here I am at this scenic little town, and this bridge. There was a picture of it on my map. So, and it was raining a little bit there. And this is a statue on the bridge itself. And here I am on another nice yet steep path. This just went on for hours. This one.
How steep was it?
it was so steep that I had to walk the bike. And you might say, that doesn't look so steep to me. I could have rode my bike. And on a normal day, I would ride my bike up this, but it was loaded with a lot of heavy stuff. And just a lot of churches you went by. Okay, so here, this is in the city of Conques, and another very scenic town in France. In fact, I hear that the movie Beauty and the Beast was based on this town. And when I was here, I had a really rough day 3. I got 2 flat tires. I injured my toe, and I used up both of my spare inner tubes, and I in changing one of them, I did it wrong and punctured the new inner tube. So this town had no bike shop, it had no doctor, and I was really kind of depressed and thinking about quitting at this point. Here's my swollen toe, by the way.
Ow.
Um, I had to take a bus to another town just to see a doctor. And by the way, uh, seeing a doctor in France was only, I think, 25 euros, which is like $30, compared to when I had to see a doctor for just a short visit in Santa Barbara over the summer. That was $850. So yay to France and Europe in general for having a reasonable price for medical care. Here's another map of the Camino. I won't go through this one since you saw a different one. Okay, this is still in Conques. This is a former monastery that got turned into an albergue for the pilgrims. This one had 100 beds, but it was all full up when I was there, so I didn't have the opportunity to stay there, which I really wanted to. Okay, and here I am. Okay, so to try to make this part of the story short, I took my bicycle on a bus to the closest town that had a bicycle store called Roduz. And like I said, I was suffering from that injury, and it was so rainy in France that I decided I took the train from Roduz back to the Camino, but I skipped about, I don't know, 50 miles of it. So I rejoined the Camino in a town called Figiat, and I rode a little bit from there. And this was another very scenic town. I forgot the name of it, but yeah. And here I am back in that same town, like looking down. And this is a typical street in a small town in France, the same town. Okay, so after 2 more days riding in France, I made it to this city, which I believe is pronounced Cours. It has this famous bridge you see in the background. And by the way, when the Camino is in like a town, it's always marked with these shells, which is the symbol of the Camino. And it was rough getting to Cours. My bike was having problems with the derailleur, tons of rain, just very up and down. And I was making very bad time. There was no way I was going to get to Santiago at the pace I was going. So I decided to skip a big part. And I took 5 different trains over 2 days to get to the city of Burgos in Spain, which is on the French way. And this is Bayonne, France, which is a very beautiful city on the way there. And here I am crossing from France into Spain on my bicycle. And so, yeah, finally I'm back on the Camino, and I rejoin it again in the city of Burgos in Spain. Beautiful town. I was so happy to be in Spain. Suddenly there were blue skies, and I was casting a shadow, and it was warm, and it wasn't as scenic as France, but I certainly, I can speak the language much better, and things definitely got a lot better once I got in Spain. And this is inside the main cathedral in Burgos, and this is like the courtyard, and here's yet another Camino map, and here I am in another spot looking at the cathedral in Burgos. And a lot of the Camino was like this, which my bike could handle. I liked sections like this, which was actually on the Camino itself. And this is the ruins of another monastery on the way. And this, by the way, was a place I had lunch, but they had an Andorra license plate on the wall. And I don't talk about this much on the live stream, but I am an avid license plate collector, and I want to get license plates from the 6 micro countries of Europe, and I need Andorra, but they just would not sell this license plate to me. Andorra, by the way, is between France and Spain. Okay, this is an albergue I stayed at in Spain. And here I am in Lyon. This is the cathedral there. It's not a coincidence that you get these enormous, beautiful cathedrals along the Camino, because it was very important to Spain to support the Camino and pilgrims on it. So they built these big cathedrals to keep people's spirits up, because for a long time it was pretty much only Catholics that did it. And here
were you able to actually go into these places and take a look at them?
Sure, yeah, of course. I have hundreds of pictures from the trip. These are just the highlights that I handpicked before the show. And I edited out a lot of pictures from inside the cathedrals because I thought they would make this presentation too long and boring. But here's another, I forgot what this building was, but this is in, I think this is also in Lyon. And I love these little places along the Camino where private businesses would just sell orange juice and things like that. Like, I ordered an orange juice and the guy actually squeezed the oranges by hand right in front of me. So just really good orange. The food and the wine and beverages on the Camino are just so good. Okay, so here I am in Astorga, another big city on the Camino. Astorga again with my bicycle. And this is called the Iron Cross, or the Cruz de Fierro. This is like a major point on the Camino. It's on all the maps, but I didn't know this at the time, but you're supposed to like leave prayers there. So now here I am at this old castle in Ponteferrada, and the Camino went right by it. And here I am at a high point. I believe the high point on the French way section of the Camino in Spain. And I mean, I saw a lot of statues of pilgrims. This is just one example. And, had I done it like from a good angle, the sun would have been right in the camera. And so I think this is the highest altitude you get on the Camino in Spain. Okay, here's like a very scenic kind of bridge. The Camino itself went up this bridge, but I didn't take that part. My bike was very heavy and difficult to get it up steps. And meanwhile, there were a lot of fires in Portugal that affected the people doing the Portuguese Camino, including a friend of mine who's doing it at the same time there. All right, so here I am in Santiago. This is the square where you finish the Camino. So this is it. This is the end of the Camino, or at least my Camino. And September is a very popular time to do it. And like 2,000 pilgrims would finish it a day there. And so then you take your book of stamps, your what's it called again? I keep forgetting the term for it. The credential, and they look at it, and before you give it to them, you fill out like on a computer screen, like where you started, your name, the starting date, the ending date, did you do it for religious reasons or not, and then they examine your credential. And I put that I started in Le Puy, and I was a little afraid they would say, how come there are no stamps between Tours and Burros? But they never asked. So my credential indeed does say that I started in Le Puy.
Awesome.
And I guess you can call it a coffin behind me, is where the remains of St. James, one of Jesus's closest apostles, allegedly are located. But I find the whole story kind of absurd, to be honest with you, about how they happened to end up there. All right. One thing that I really lack doing the Camino on a bicycle is, getting to know other pilgrims because I simply went so much faster. Meanwhile, all these people on feet seem to know each other because they all went approximately the same speed. But I did meet this German guy along the way, and I rejoined him. He also did it on bicycle, and rejoined him um, in Santiago. So hopefully I can maintain a friendship with him so I can say I made at least one friend on the Camino. But that friendship already seems to be fading off, unfortunately.
Mm.
Um, so I also, another place where you can end the Camino is called Fistera, which means like the end of the earth in Galatian. And so I took a bus there because I was already kind of tired of the bicycle. And this is me at what they believe to be the end of the earth, um, before they discovered the Americas.
That is a gorgeous picture, by the way.
Oh, it would have been even better had it not been cloudy. And so this marks this, you probably can't see this, but it says 0.000 kilometers, because all along the Camino, you see these signs saying how far you are from the end. And there's 3 official ending points. Probably 99% of people end in Santiago, but you can also end here or in another city called Murcia. That's also along the coast. And so a big problem is getting my bicycle home. And everyone, including Spanish locals, advised me, "Oh, just go to the post office in Santiago. They ship bikes all day long." So I go there and they say, "We don't ship bikes to the United States." So I was very depressed about that. And so then I was going to send it to my cousin in Germany. So I made all these arrangements to do that. And then I take it there and they say, "We don't ship them to Germany either." So there was the night before my early flight, and I was going to just take this bike and just leave it in a church with a note saying, "Give this to someone in need." But it was stored in the hotel, like a storage room. So this guy was assigned to unlock it, and he seemed like a very nice guy. And I asked him if he wanted the bike, and he said, in Spanish, absolutely. So I gave it to him. So he seemed very happy to get it.
Well, that's awesome. That was nice of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thanks. It's a very nice bicycle too. It cost me about $1,500. So there you
Wow.
go. That's like the quick version. So I could talk much longer, but at this point, I will open it up to questions about the Camino. And if there's no questions about that, we'll get to some gambling questions.
So if you guys have any questions, put that in the chat. I do have a couple questions to get us
Sure.
started off. What time did you start and what time did you stop every day?
I typically started early. The sun only came up at around 8 a.m. And so I would often start in the dark, like at about 7 to 7:30. And I usually would quit between 3 and 4. And yeah, so usually I would take a long lunch break, but I would spend probably 6-7 hours on the bike per day. So that's a good
Okay.
question, and that's typical of the pilgrims. They like to get an early start. I think it was partially to hike when it was cool, because Spain is kind of hot, and partially to try to get one of the better beds in the albergues.
What were some of the stuff that you had stored on your bike?
I had 4 days worth of clothes. I had spare inner tubes, some tools to fix my bike, maps, a book, and first aid kits, just and stuff like toothpaste and just stuff like that. And
And two
I had a little notebook to record what I did each day.
and two water bottles, I noticed.
Yep, I actually had 3. The bike held 2, and I kept one in one of the bags, and
Did you
plus a lot
ever
of clothing for all kinds of different weather.
did you ever run out of water?
Yes,
Mm.
probably a couple times, but it wasn't like a catastrophic situation. One thing I learned is, I would see a map and I would say go right through a little town, and I would say I'll get water there, and I would kind of pace myself to get water there, and I would get there, and this town would be like 2 houses and no water. So, so I just had to go without water until I found some. So
Oh, wow.
never was I like really desperately out of water.
Okay. Let's go to your comments. We have a lot of people commenting about this.
Mhm.
Northern Jim says the Chateau Le Puy is one of my
Right.
favorite wines.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can't speak to that wine in particular, but the wine in both France and Spain was so good and so cheap. Like typically it was €2 a glass and it was a good pour. And sometimes they would just leave like half a bottle with you. Like if you bought a glass, they poured you a glass and then gave you what was left in like half a bottle. And so I think that us Americans are getting ripped off for in both water and wine. There is no reason why you go to a nice restaurant and a bottle of wine is like $80. I bet it costs them $8. It's just something that all us Americans have been suckered into. And but there's absolutely no reason we need to be paying so much for water and wine.
When you go to the Las Vegas Strip, I think they charge $10 for a bottle of water.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, try buying a bottle of water in like a casino gift shop. Yeah, you will pay, it'll be pushing $10. So I don't blame these people that sell bottled water for $1 on the bridges. And I despite what I think is a myth that they um, get used bottles and just fill tap water in them. I don't believe that.
Ew.
A lot of people, like if you watch Vegas videos, like um, on YouTube, a lot of them claim that they do this, but I have always seen the bottles like looking like arranged like in a whole case, and they open it right in front of you. Anyway, I don't want to go down this path too much, but yeah, absolutely, a big thumbs up for the wine in France and Spain.
David says, cool trip. Very
Thank you.
awesome. We have some more comments here. Technic says, I went to France 8 years ago. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that so many people understood English and were willing to help.
To that, I would say that when I was in France, in all these small towns, they typically did not speak English, and I did have some difficulty with that. Usually there would be another pilgrim who was bilingual, knowing French and English, who could translate. But between their little bit of English and my little bit of French, we usually got by. So never was it a huge problem. But yeah, in the bigger cities, yeah, people do generally speak English in France.
Yeah. And that's a big conversation in the chat where people are talking about their experience with people speaking English versus not speaking English.
And one thing I'd like to say is the French have this reputation for being kind of snooty and rude, but I have been to France the last 3 years, and over these 3 years, I absolutely would disagree with that stereotype. I find them to be nice, friendly people. Of course, there are exceptions. There's going to be exceptions to any kind of generality like that. But I really like the French, and I have absolutely no problems with them. And I really like, um, um, in general, all the French people that I met on the Camino.
That's awesome. Technics also says that at Normandy's American Cemetery, I had numerous French people express their gratitude for the Americans helping to free their country.
That is a great story. So for those of you who don't know, there's an enormous cemetery in Normandy where the remains of U.S. Soldiers in World War II who lost their lives in the Normandy invasion. Maybe invasion is not the right term. In our battle there, and maybe other ones close to there. And so absolutely, I think they should say thank you, and I'm grateful that they do.
And then we have a question from Northern Jim who says, how long is the Camino compared to the Pacific Trail?
Okay, so it's the Pacific Crest Trail, and that is at least 2,000 miles, probably somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500. And the problem with the Camino is there's not just one Camino. There's 5 main Caminos, but then there's also like little Caminos that feed into the main Caminos. So even people just say the Camino, but again, there's lots of them. But I would say that if you added up the 5 major Caminos, not counting the minor Caminos, it's going to be way, way more than the Pacific Crest Trail. That's going to be probably like twice as much, like 4,000 miles.
That's so much.
And again, that's not counting the minor caminos.
That's amazing. So we have no trivia today. We knew that this was going to take a while, so we just are going to get right into the gambling questions and try to do as many questions as we can before the end of this.
Okay.
Our first question is from Steven, who says, do you still gamble for your personal entertainment? And if so, what are your favorite games to play?
Okay. By the way, you might tell that I'm not at home right now. I'm in a hotel casino. I won't state which one, but I have been playing a little bit. Just not that I perceived any advantage, but just playing some very low house edge, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and video poker. So that kind of answers your question right there. Is I've been playing some Ultimate Texas Hold'em, which if you play properly has an element of risk of just 0.5%. And I've been playing some 8-5 bonus poker, which is 99.2% return. But I'm playing it so that I'm hopefully they will knock off the resort fee from my bill when I leave, which they said they would consider doing based on my play. And yeah, what can I say? Even though I'm not playing with an advantage, I haven't really been playing much lately. So it was nice to have kind of an excuse to kind of having a lack of anything else to do. But I also like playing tiles, and I also like blackjack. At this casino that I'm at, there's a $25 minimum to play 3-2 blackjack, which is a bit much for me. So that's why I've been playing Ultimate Texas Hold'em again. And by the way, yesterday I got a straight flush in Ultimate Texas Hold'em. The first time that has ever happened to me.
Congrats.
Yep, that pays 50 to 1 on the blind bet. So $10 bet paid $500 there.
Nice. That is so nice.
Thanks.
And I heard that most 3-2 blackjacks nowadays can only be found in the high limit. They've made that pretty much difficult to play unless you're playing high limit.
That's true in a lot of places like the Fontainebleau. Some other places might have, like, say, the Mirage will probably have some 3-2 tables on the main floor, but they're probably going to be at least a $50 minimum. Yeah, so it's getting harder and harder to find, especially at lower minimum bets.
Yeah. Paul Andrews says, welcome back.
Thank you.
Question for you both. Do you believe in any conspiracy theories, and which theory do you find to be the most ridiculous? I vote flat earthers as being the worst.
I'm a very skeptical person, and so I absolutely reject a lot of what I think are conspiracy theories that other people, say, well, they said it was true on Fox News. It must be true. I don't think that the flat Earth thing is like people are like who talk about that seriously believe it. I think that I think they're just trying to get a rise out of people. Okay, but the question was, what do you find to be the most ridiculous? Let me think about it. Heather, if you want to go ahead, you can.
If you believe in the conspiracy theory, wouldn't that make it not a conspiracy theory because you believe in it?
Well, of course, nobody will say they believe in conspiracy theories. They will say that it's actually true.
Yeah.
But to the people who don't believe in it, they label it a conspiracy theory.
I find the most ridiculous to be the one where they say we didn't walk on the moon.
Yeah.
That they said it's all in the studio and it was all a Hollywood thing.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I'll go with that one too.
Cool.
All right, enough about that one.
Next, also from Paul Andrews, an AP slot can have an RTP higher than what it's configured and sometimes much higher. Is this correct?
Okay, the way I interpret this question is that so when he says an AP slot, AP, of course, means advantage play. And what I think he's driving at is that there's a lot of slot machines like, say, Cashman Bingo, that can offer a player advantage according to the state of the game that the last player left it in. Um, so these games still have some kind of overall advantage, average RTP, like say 90%. But at any given spin, it can be probably anywhere from, I don't know, 50% to 110%. So that's why they're called variable state games by the industry, because the return is variable according to lots of things, according to how the last player left it. So so I hope that answers your question.
Our next one is from Northern Jim, who says, at Pai Gow Poker, I got 2 straight flushes in a row with the same cards, 5 through 9 hearts, different kicker. I tried to calculate the odds. The first one was 1 in 1,000. 2 in a row is 1 in 10,000. With the same cards is 1 in 50,000. Am I close?
Well, I don't want to slow down the show by looking that up. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I will say it's easier to get a straight flush in Pai Gow Poker than Ultimate Texas Hold'em, because Pai Gow Poker has a joker. And but if you were to submit that question to me through Wizard of Vegas or Wizard of Odds, I will be sure to answer it for you, and probably make an Ask the Wizard question out of it.
And if someone wants to do Ask the Wizard, how would they do that? Go to your website, go where?
Yeah, they can go to Wizard of Odds, click Contact Us, and it's going to ask you the reason for writing. And I don't remember what the choices are, but just make your best choice. I think there's something about, I have a gambling question, and it'll eventually get to me. It'll get bounced around through other people first, but yeah, that's probably the easiest way for you guys.
Northern Jim says that his favorite conspiracy theory is the casino coolers.
Yeah, that's a very common one. It's not as common as it used to be, but for those who don't understand it, back in more of the old school days of Vegas, casinos would keep somebody on staff who they thought were just very unlucky people. And if a particular table was someone who was making too much money, or everyone was, they would send the so-called cooler to go down and cool off the table. And there was a whole movie called The Cooler, starring William H. Macy, which is a pretty good movie. And if you are interested in that topic.
Also, to not every casino does this, but there are some people that work in the casino industry that are superstitious. So what they'll do is they'll take a casino dealer off a game who they feel is a cooler, and they'll put them on a game with a high roller or someone where they want them to lose because they want to close the table or whatnot. And as a casino dealer, I've had this happen several times because I was considered a cooler. And I would get taken off my table, and I'd have to go to another table, and I would get blackjack every freaking hand, and they would close the table and they'd be like, thank you, we'll use you again on another table.
Heather the Cooler.
Dennis says, where can I get your blackjack card?
I'm not sure what you mean by my blackjack card. I don't really have one. I used to have the basic strategy on my business card, but I have discontinued that one a long time ago. And yeah, I do not sell basic strategy cards, if that's what you mean. Somebody else once tried to make a business out of doing that, but she stopped doing that. So yeah, I'm afraid I do not have a blackjack card.
Jack Ace asks, how did you like working with Huntington Press, publishing Gambling 102, and what benefits did they provide over going the self-publishing route?
I published my book back in, I first approached them and we made a deal back in 2002. And this was before self-publishing was a thing. So that we never had that conversation. And I like Huntington Press. I'm very friendly with Anthony Curtis. And I think any book about gambling by Huntington Press, you can count on to be legitimate. They do not publish quack authors. They're not going to publish a book saying, here's some easy way to beat roulette, because they can tell rubbish when they see it. I will say a downside, though, is that it takes them a long time to get a book out, and they will give many, many promises, and they're not met. And if you are going to have them publish your book, you just have to accept that it comes out when it comes out, and don't watch the calendar. And probably whenever they say it's going to come out, probably add like a solid year to that, I'm afraid.
They probably have so much going on, though.
Right. And that's, again, I don't like to be critical of them, but that's what they should say. Or they should say, look, we have so many books in front of you, and give like an honest estimate as opposed to like a best case scenario. And books will cut in line. The big names will cut in line on the waiting list. And so that's another reason that I think it can take longer to get your book out than maybe what they promise.
And that makes sense.
Yep.
Dalbrixon says, do any of the casinos have schemes to convert player cards or points into charity donations? This seems like a PR opportunity.
Yes. One of my biggest annoyances is when you take a slot ticket to a redemption machine, and let's say that it's for $100.99. It'll kick out $100 bill and then a voucher for 99 cents. And you have to take that 99-cent voucher over to the cage, and stand in a line there. And who knows how far away the cage is going to be in some of these huge casinos. So, but I have seen it. This is the exception, not the rule, where it says, would you like to donate your change to charity? So I really like it when they have that option, but I think I have only seen that once or twice in many, many casinos. And by the way, what I will often do is if I have a voucher for under $1, I will just go to the nearest worker, like dealer, and just give it to them as a tip.
Aw, that's nice. It kind of reminds me of the grocery stores, or when you go to a store and they're like, do you want to round up for the nearest donation?
Yeah. I have absolutely no problem with that. Another thing I'd like, by the way, is on some slot machines, I don't remember the maker, that when you cash out, it will say, do you want to make like a side bet with the change? Like, let's say you cash out $20 and 40 cents. It will say, do you want to bet the 40 cents to either round up to $1 or you lose it? And so I always click yes. And, sometimes it rounds up and sometimes it doesn't. But I like that way. So at least you walk away from the game with a voucher that's evenly divisible by $1.
Yeah. Okay, so our next one is from Technics, who says, does it make any difference how long you let a random number generator run after you've placed your bet in a blackjack game or select cards to hold in video poker before hitting the deal button?
Mathematically, it doesn't make any difference. I will say that that the outcome is determined the exact moment you click the deal button, but it doesn't help nor hurt to delay it. A random card is a random card. So that is my answer to that one.
Our next one is from Cheeky Monkey, who says, is it possible for anyone to know how to predict a natural 8 or 9 in Baccarat? I had a friend who says he knows, and I've actually seen him do it. And so far he's crushing it with online casinos.
Nope. I haven't observed your friend, but oftentimes there's confirmation bias in stories like this, where everyone remembers the time that he wins and they don't remember the times that he loses. But to have the ability to know when an 8 or 9 is coming up in Baccarat would just be worth millions of dollars. And it's just not true unless he's cheating somehow.
He has more comments. Do you want me to go into that?
Why don't you just show me real quick? but don't without reading them. No, I need to see some evidence before I'm going to go down this rabbit hole.
Okay. Our next comment comes from, let's see. It's a comment, not a question. Northern Jim says, I think this is the first live stream not from the Wizard's usual office, except for the ones on Heather's channel.
Yeah, we used to do them in Heather's place way back when we first started.
With the table in front of us and the curtains. Yeah.
But then COVID separated us, and we just kept it that way.
Yeah, life happened.
Yeah, but yeah, this is the first one in a long time where I was not in my office.
The next question comes from, let's see here. This is from Andy, who says, can you briefly explain how to calculate the expected value for an infinite number of splits in blackjack? I watched your videos with explanations in Excel, and it is not there. Thank you a lot.
Well, it's actually easier to calculate the math if there's infinite splits. And real briefly, let me make sure I answer this right. The expected number of hands you would split to would be 2 times. So there's a 12 and 13 chance you do not. Now let me calculate it this way. Let's let X equal to the number of hands one hand splits to. So there's a 12 and 13 chance that you just get 1, and a 1 in 13 chance that you get 2x. So let's multiply both sides by x. So we get 13x equals 12 plus 2x. So let's subtract 2x from each side, and we get 11x is equal to 12. So any given hand that you split is going to turn into 12. I didn't bring is my calculator here?
Can you use the calculator on your computer?
No, here it is.
Okay.
So any given one hand is going to turn into 12 divided by 11, which is 1.091 hands, but you get 2 initial hands. So I know you can't see this very well, but with infinite decks splitting tens, you can, by the end of all the infinite resplitting, you can expect to play out 2.18 hands.
Cool.
And then you just have to average all of the hands that you could resplit to, not counting getting the same card back. For example, if you split 8s, you would calculate what is the expected value if I get a 2 plus a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, skipping 8, then 9, and then 4 times a 10, and then an ace, and average all those. And there you get your expected value of splitting 8s.
Awesome.
And there's enough time on that one.
Our next one is from Ray, who says, if the pay tables are the same, is a 10-play video poker better than a 3-play video poker or 1-play? Intuitively, I would think it would be, since if you get a good hand, you get 10 of them.
No, the RTP is the same, assuming the pay table is the same. I personally like to play more plays because it lowers the volatility. And yes, you will get, say, 10 times as many royals at 10 play, but each one only pays 1/10 as much as if you bet the same amount in 1 play. So, again, absolutely, the return to player is absolutely the same, given the same game and pay table, regardless of how many plays there are.
Awesome. And just a quick heads up for you guys. If you ask the question once, we'll get to it in the order it's received. If you ask the question multiple times, it just makes things a little bit more confusing. We also have Jimmy, who says, I've talked to a flat earther and they really do believe it.
Okay. I don't know what to say to that.
I'm sure I'm mispronouncing the name Giuseppe. Says, hey, chat, greetings from Munich, Germany.
Ah, guten Tag, wie geht es Ihnen? Yeah, I love Munich. Munich is my favorite city in Germany, and I have been there 4 times.
Oh, wow. Cool. David says, any thoughts on Mickey Mace's claims of casino cheating?
Yeah, this has been asked before. So real briefly, Mickey Mace, if that's how you pronounce it, is a YouTube celebrity, and he has all these videos where he's sitting behind a pile of $100 bills, and he claims he has this way of beating roulette, and he claims that the casinos are cheating players somehow, and he has reversed engineered how they do it, and and using their own cheating against them. But this is all nonsense. He has never provided any evidence other than piles of money on a coffee table and things like that. And selective friends reporting that, oh, I gave Mickey $10,000 and he turned it into 50s. Just anecdotal stories like this. So, in my very strong opinion, he's a charlatan, a quack, a liar, and it's all nonsense.
Yeah. Anyone could put money in a video.
Yep.
Anyone.
And in the
And say
unlikely
it.
chance he sees that, I'd be happy to talk with you. Um, and I'm going to say, show me some evidence, or let me watch you play. Um, and um, and anyway, yeah, that's my answer to that one.
It's amazing how many people go about saying that casinos cheat when in fact, no, they have a house edge. Like that's what the house edge is.
Hmm. Yeah, they don't need to cheat. And in here in Nevada, it's really, really rare that they do get caught cheating. And when they do, it's usually something weird, like there was a drawing and they palmed a winning ticket to give to someone who they wanted to win. Things like that have been known to happen, but by
Yeah.
and large, Vegas is a very, very safe place to play.
Yeah. It's not worth it for the casinos to lose their license.
You're absolutely right.
Our next question is from Northern Jim, who says, in poker tournaments, I notice that as the number of players go down, the best cards go down too. Example, 10 players, you need an ace king, 5 players left, queen jack, 3 players, 10-9. Is this a fluke?
The best cards go down. Well, if I could rephrase your question to be, as the number of players at a table goes down, of course, the best hand in a round is going to go down as well because there are fewer hands. So it's just logical that at a 10-player game, the best starting hand is probably going to be a high pair or suited ace king, something really good. But if it's only 2 or 3 players, um, the best hand is going to be something much less strong. So, and of course, you have to adapt your strategy to how many players are at the table, where I would say you need a better starting hand to play a game, the more players there are at the table. So I hope I understood your question correctly, and that answer was of some help to you.
Just a heads up, we have 7 minutes left. So if you have a question you want to ask Michael Shackelford, please put it in the live chat. We will hopefully get to all of them before the end of this. Next one is for me. Woohoo, I love it. Why does Heather have a Gandalf hat? This is a witch's hat. I don't know if you could see the tip. There's like a tip right there. So it's a witch.
Yes, and I love the outfit.
Thank you so much. I was just so excited to wear this. Like, it's
Yeah, but it
finally
does kind of look
October.
like Gandalf's hat, although it was Gandalf the Gray, and that hat is more of a close to a black.
Yeah, you're right. Mike says, how do I find a mathematician willing to analyze a new casino game that I've created? Do you do that? And if so, how do I reach you directly?
I do that. I said earlier in the show, you can reach me through the Wizard of Odds or Wizard of Vegas. And I tend to not like working for independent game inventors, um, because they usually don't like paying my prices. I will, depending upon the complexity of your game, I'll probably charge between $5,000 and $10,000. And I will say there are other mathematicians that work cheaper than me. How do you find them, you might ask? If you go to Wizard of Odds, it's somewhere there, I don't remember how to find it. There's something called the Game Inventors Corner. And there I list some of my competitors. But I think you won't mind me saying that there's a guy, that one of my competitors is Joe Shipman, and his prices are very reasonable, and he does very good work. So if you are price conscious, I would recommend going to Joe directly, and don't even waste my time asking me for a quote, because Joe will be less.
Shipman's wonderful. We've done so
Yeah.
much work with him, and he is just so fantastic.
Right. Now, you might say, why does anyone go to you then? It's because, if I may say so, I'm a bigger name than Joe. But again, I have absolutely nothing negative to say about Joe, and he does very solid math, and again, and charges less than I do.
Our next one is Jimmy Johnston, who says that calculator you have is
Oh,
awesome.
thank you. Anyone who compliments my HP 15C is immediately my friend. And what makes this calculator different from others is that there's no equal sign. It's if you wanted to do, say, 2 plus 2, you go 2, enter 2 plus. So it's called reverse Polish notation. And if you have to, like, a long sequence of things that are in your calculation, it's a much more logical way to get the answer. And this has the combinatorial and permutation function and all the stuff you need. And I like having where everything is memorized on this calculator. And yes, to know the HP 15C is to love it. So thank you. Very good compliment.
That's awesome. I put a question for you in the private chat real quick because I wasn't sure. And I just wanted to double check before I said anything.
That's fine with me.
That's okay. Okay.
Sure.
So Mike, going back to your question real quick, my business, Vegas Aces, we actually work with casino game inventors. We will help you through the process of getting your game developed and placed into a casino or selling it on an online casino company. We will also refer you to a mathematician, and we do use Shipman for that. So if you want more information, you can email me at heather@vegas-aces.com, and I will help you through the process.
Yep, Heather's the best. She will take good care of you. Like I said, she doesn't, if I may give her a little plug, Heather doesn't do the math directly, but works with Joe. But Heather does a great job. She can make demos, videos, and help try to sell your game.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Northern Jim. It's more of an insider tip. Caesars has sold the World Series of Poker, but is working on an online poker platform for next year. There will be really nice coupons at first if it materializes.
Okay. I don't have any comment about that, but this does remind me of something that I did want to say, is that while I was in Europe, somebody made a deep fake video of me promoting an internet casino that looked like it was for Caesars, but they spelled it wrong. They reversed the E and the A. And so they made this video that looked like it was me promoting it, but the whole thing was fake. And since then, Facebook took it down. But I just wanted to address that if anyone saw that, I absolutely do not promote the legitimate Caesars or this illegitimate one. So.
Oh my gosh, how did you feel when you saw that? That must have been so surprising.
I got a lot of I did not get on the internet at all while I was on the Camino, but I got texts, like, people asking me, is this really you promoting this, because this internet casino? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, but no, I'm not promoting Caesars at all. And most people were fooled by how they misspelled Caesars. So anyway, if there's,
That's so
Yeah.
freaky.
So it looks like
Um,
it's 4 o'clock.
yep. Do you want to cut it off at there? We have
If you
like
have any,
two more.
why don't you give us two more questions?
Okay. JCE says, I really enjoy watching your unique travels around the world. How do you decide where to go and what to do? Do you come up with the destinations yourself, or do you get the ideas from somewhere else?
Well, the Camino has been on my bucket list for a long time. And when I decided to not do Burning Man this year, um, it was kind of a short notice decision, but I thought, work is a little slow and I haven't done a big trip this year yet, so why not do it right now? So I did, and I didn't plan it a whole lot. I probably should have planned my trip better, but I just kind of showed up there and did it, and everything worked out pretty well. But it would have worked out better had I like made reservations in advance at the albergues. But I didn't. Being on a bicycle, I didn't really know how far I would travel each day. Um, but if you're going to do it on foot, I recommend there are services that will help you plan the whole thing. So, but in general, I have a mental list of places I'd like to go, and I tend to do a medium amount of planning. Um, every trip is different. Some trips I've done with another couple, and they plan out everything really well, which I'm very thankful for, and I just tag along. But yeah, every trip is different. But yeah, so
Cool.
all depends on the trip.
Our next one is more of a statement. Northern Jim says, thank you so much for the poker answer. That helped me out a lot.
You're welcome.
And then this is the last question, and it's really fast. Heather, do you have a Halloween outfit picked out yet? Yes, I always wear Star Trek. Just make it that easy.
Yep.
Okay. When is our next one?
Well, let's see. So today is October 3rd. How about October? How about October 17th?
Okay. Are we going to have one on Halloween, October 31st?
Yeah, let's tentatively plan on that too.
Okay. So 17th, the 31st. And then for the 31st, you want to wear a Halloween costume?
Yes.
Awesome. You guys will see my Star Trek dress.
Cool.
Do you know what you're going to be?
Nope.
Okay. So we'll make that a surprise.
Yeah, being Father Michael is always a possibility, but maybe I'll think of another idea. You never know.
That sounds good. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your questions. And it was great talking with you as always, Mike.
Yep. The pleasure is all mine. And thanks everyone for showing up, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you guys soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.